Sabo is my favorite character in the series. I hate everything about Sabo. I actually like him more than Ace. Sabo is better than Ace. The amnesia is a deal breaker for me. Sabo is a One Piece character. Sabo being alive sucks. His mere presence generates plot holes. I really like Sabo. I feel he's basically the brains to Ace's brawn. God, I hate Sabo. My balls need deodorant? Wow, that's a lot to take in. Hello and welcome to the Groundline Review, your source for everything One Piece. My name is Liam and it is time to talk about the thing. That thing being the guy and the guy being named Sabo. Now there are a lot of One Piece characters who generate massive amounts of love and a fair few who conjure a pretty shocking level of hate. But very rarely is there a character who is capable of por qué no los dos. I really can't think of a topic that fractures the One Piece fanbase more than the very existence of Sabo. Maybe a Zoro versus Sanji debate, but even then that tends to spawn purely from the love side of things. You know, we have two very passionate individuals arguing over why their fictional pirate is better than the other person's fictional pirate, which I guess is just what fully grown men were born to do. But Sabo is very different. I genuinely don't think there is a more divisive character amongst the well over 1,000 that One Piece has to offer, and so we are going to examine how Sabo, just by nature of existing, managed to fracture an entire fan base. Before we do though, it is time to give away this very special gift type thing, which today is going to be an Iron Pirate Piggyback. That's right, General Frankie is here to protect your preciousness, and this is actually a very cool limited item that was distributed as part of One Piece Film Gold. But it's amazing, and if you'd like to win said amazingness, and all you need to do is one of these two things, one of which is subscribe to the channel, and the other of which is leave a comment answering the following question. What is your favorite Battle Frankie, and why? And that is legit it. The winner will be announced in our community section, so go ahead, do the thing, and win the golden robot. But to begin our Sabo discussion, I would like to share my views, which is that the more I think about Sabo, the more he sounds a bit like fan fiction. Because let's say you love One Piece and you love writing, so we want to combine the two. But in order to do so, we are going to need a self-insert character. But that character can't be a straw hat because that impacts the canon a little bit too much, so what can we do? Aha! I know. My self-insert character is the unknown third brother of Luffy and Ace. And when I say unknown, I mean even to himself. He didn't even remember his deep connection to the main character until I started writing my fanfic, after all. So Luffy looks up to him and respects him. And he's super powerful. He can beat a vice admiral in one hit and even fight equally with a whole admiral. In fact, he's so strong that he's second in command of the Revolutionary Army, despite the fact that he is only 22. Oh, and he has the Mera to me because fire is pretty cool. And I can't quite think of an original power. Plus, he is accompanied by a cute, big-titted girl who fawns over him at all times, and a fishman dude who, he kind of sucks, but that's the point. Because he makes Sabo look even cooler by comparison. Oh, and he also spent 2 years with Robin, so they're like really good friends. Practically lovers, I would say, actually. At the very least, they're gonna do it a couple of times in my fic, faux show. And one time, Koala and Bello Betty are gonna be there as well, and Bello Betty will use her devil fruit to inspire me. I mean inspire him, being the character, into performing better. And then all three of them are gonna say, "You're the best we've ever had, Liam." I mean, Sabo. Sabo is what I meant. And I could go on, but I think you get the point. To me, Sabo is the most non-One Piece character who has ever existed in the series because he's just so perfect. Within the world, everyone either loves or respects Sabo, which is the sort of status that Luffy doesn't even have, which is why he tends to feel like a self-insert to me. Because generally, when people self-insert, they're not going to be too critical of the character representing themselves for some reason, and they're really going to just gun straight for living that perfect power fantasy. With that said, this is one of the many reasons why I can understand people loving Sabo, because his status in One Piece is very desirable. But there are several controversial, or at least as controversial as we can get talking about fictional pirates. But there are a collective of controversies that contribute to Sabo's divisive popularity, the first of which being a case of replacement syndrome. No matter what your views on Sabo are as an individual character, there is an overwhelming impression that Sabo is very similar to the existence of a certain Ace, which I can statistically prove because I did a thing. The Grand Fleet were polled on this matter and almost 70% of all voters agreed that Sabo and Ace occupy a very common spectrum, with the vast majority landing in the sort of response. And sure, they're both brothers of Luffy and they both use the same devil fruit, but that in and of itself is not quite enough to kickstart replacement syndrome. What it more comes down to is how they were both introduced into the story. Ace was first gifted to us as part of a classic One Piece era, making his first appearance at the end of Drum Island. And while arguably he didn't do a whole lot, his seed was planted in the very early early days of the series, allowing the idea of Ace to grow with readers and watchers until his eventual heartbreaking death at Marineford 400 or so chapters later. Whereas Sabo very much had the opposite kind of journey. He's not a classic character, but he holds the same status as one, because canonically Luffy has probably spent more time with Sabo than he has with, say, Zoro. So it can feel like a bit of a retcon to have a character like this pop up so late into the series. Sanji's family would be a good example of that. The Germa were very, very late additions to One Piece considering their deep connection to one of our core protagonists, but the main difference between the Germa and the Sabo is all about timing. Because while there were a couple of hints to Sabo's existence, he wasn't actually revealed to us until Ace had died. And not only that, but Sabo then appeared in One Piece less than 10 chapters following Ace's death, which is very sudden and can feel a bit replacey. You know, we've just had our one established brother die, and before we have the time to really absorb that, the gaping gap of brotherhood has already been filled by a new character who we all know is still alive because that's just how One Piece works. It's like Ace was an old family pet who sadly passed away, but to lessen the pain for the kids, aka the readers and watchers, parental extraordinaire Eiichiro Oda immediately went out and bought a new pet less than a week after the passing of our beloved Ace. A new pet who immediately assumed Ace's old position within the family, which isn't at all the fault of our brand new Sabo pet. He is adorable and stuff. It's just that the timing is quite jarring and it makes it very clear that he is intended to fill a gap. The other way I'd describe the situation is imagine if it wasn't Ace who had died. Let's say it was Zoro who died pre-time skip, and then 9 chapters later we have a Luffy flashback to where it was revealed that he was brothers with another child from Shimotsuki Village who we are going to call Zoronoa Rozo. And sadly, Rozo went missing during their childhood, but then he grew up and reappeared to Luffy post-time skip, inheriting all of Zoro's swords and basically taking his place in the series. And Rozo's motivations may not be to become the world's greatest swordsman, and he probably has completely different character traits to Zoro, but that wouldn't stop the feeling that he was just a Zoro replacement. Here's the thing though, this does sound ridiculous, but if Oda had planned this and really wanted to do it, then he could sell it just as well as the Sabo situation. And I'm sure that Rozo would have a massive fan base as well because he's just so cool. Everyone loves and respects him and he's super powerful. So strong that he is now the second in command of the Straw Hat Pirates. Plus he's always accompanied by Nami and Robin, who he does it with frequently, and they're both gonna say, "You're the best we've ever had, Liam." I mean Rozo. Rozo is what I meant. But replacement syndrome aside, Sabo has other issues as well that has very much splintered the fan base. A big one being the good old A word, amnesia. If you're a writer who writes things like stories for example, then never use amnesia as a plot point. It is so insanely difficult to make work because it almost always feels like a bit of a lazy solution. Because Oda had a problem. He had plans for this cool Sabo character to be introduced, but the issue is how does he excuse the fact that such a profound character has been completely absent from the series for the past decade? And the answer is, I don't know, I guess he forgot. And so did the rest of the world, I suppose. Sabo's amnesia seems to have functioned kind of like Sugar's toy powers, where because Sabo is affected, everyone else who knew Sabo has also lost their memories of him. Which is why, even though he's the second in command of the most infamous group in the world, with a well-publicized bounty of 602 million berries, a bounty that is publicized along with his name, Sabo, and a picture of him dressed in the same outfit that he wore as a child, despite that, nobody seemed to recognize that Sabo even existed. Not Garp, who knew Sabo as a child, not Dadan and the Mountain Bandits who religiously keep up with global news, not Makino who does the same, and not Ace who surely would have heard something about this infamous Sabo fellow. No one. Somehow, nobody knew that Sabo still existed prior to the events of the Reverie, despite the fact that he was there. He was right there in front of their eye things. And this is an issue that did not need to exist. It would have been as simple as changing Sabo's name. I mean, he has amnesia, right? So why would he remember his name? Maybe they call him Revolutionary Fred or something, and that's why no one noticed he was alive. But after regaining his memories, he now goes by Sabo again, and bam, everyone realizes that, oh damn, Revolutionary Fred was Sabo all along. And we did poll the amnesia question as well, with the majority of Grand Fleet members going, yeah, it was alright. But that is in contrast to a further almost 50% of respondents who lean on the more negative scale, meaning that we have close to 90% of voters ranging from a fairly apathetic to quite negative response regarding the amnesia plot point. And this is huge because this same pool of voters overwhelmingly like Sabo as a character. We've got over 70% of people saying that they like or even love Sabo, meaning that the proportion of people who actively dislike or even hate him is a distinct minority. But even then, a gigantic limited quantity of Sabo fans are not particularly satisfied with how his story was handled. But here is the question that I found to be most damning of all. I asked the Grand Fleet whether One Piece would be better or worse without adult Sabo, and the vast majority of people said that One Piece would be the same, that Sabo's presence neither adds nor detracts from anything that we're currently experiencing. Which is insane because once again, a lot of the people who voted for this option are the same ones who do quite like Sabo. And for those people to say that they could give or take Sabo's involvement is a very rare kind of apathy that we almost never see in One Piece, at least not with such a prominent character. And to be completely fair here, Sabo's story has not had the opportunity to play out yet, and these statistics could very easily change once that does happen, because it's kind of like taking a poll on Ace prior to the Paramount War saga. Most people likely would have had a more apathetic approach to Ace back then as well. So with that in mind, I think the one question that remains is, are you excited to see more Sabo in the future? And the vast majority of people are a definite yes, which says a lot about this character that Oda has created. The idea that even though collectively we're not so keen on how he came to be, we as a fan base are still very excited that he does exist and are extremely keen to explore more of him. And I feel like a big part of this response also has to do with our trust in Oda, because if he went to such extraordinary lengths to include Sabo in the story, then there must have been a very good reason to have done so. So I guess we'll just wait and see what happens. And what's happening right now is another video, because there's always more to learn, explore, and experience with this wonderful series, so I look forward to seeing you there.